This is Palestine's Gaza, a tiny stretch of land that lies between Israel, Egypt, and the Mediterranean Sea. But it's also known as the world's largest open-air prison, as it has been blockaded by Israel by land, air, and the sea for the past 16 years. And now, Israel's far-right government has just tightened the noose further after Palestinian Hamas fighters launched their biggest attack on Israel on October 7, catching Israeli intelligence agencies completely off guard.
אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
Israel has announced a complete siege on Gaza amid fighting and a rising death toll on both sides.
No internet, no electricity until now. It's around 7 p.m. We literally don't know what's happening in the world. Here we're just listening to bombs. No one knows anything.
This is Plestia Alakad, a journalist documenting life under siege as Israel pounds Gaza with the fiercest airstrikes yet.
We're inside the house right now and literally we can't breathe. That's the view from the window and I can't keep it open. That's the view from the balcony. There is literally no view. You can't see anything.
Israel's intense shelling and bombardment of Gaza has flattened residential buildings, mosques, hospitals, refugee camps, and even UN shelter schools.
We found really close to my house. That's my window right now. That's the view.
Hospitals in Gaza are overwhelmed. 8 of them are facing severe shortages of essential medical supplies and equipment and have no way of accessing these items due to the siege.
People in the street are calling for ambulance, but there is no ambulance.
But why is Gaza being subject to a blockade? To understand this, we need to turn the pages of history. Gaza was part of historical Palestine before the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, when then Zionist paramilitary groups violently expelled nearly 800,000 Palestinians from their homes in what's known as the Nakba. To seek refuge, many Palestinians fled to Gaza. After the 1948-1949 Arab-Israeli War, Gaza was placed under Egyptian administration and remained so until the 1967 Six-Day War, when Israel emerged victorious and occupied Gaza along with the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Following the expansion of Israeli territory, millions of Palestinians found themselves having to live under military occupation in the occupied West Bank and Gaza. During the 90s, Israel used border closure tactics on Gazans, arbitrarily opening and closing the border whenever they wanted, and introduced a permit system making permits very hard to get, and thereby restricting their movement in and out of the occupied territory. In 2005, Israel withdrew its forces and settlements from Gaza, but continued to build illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. In 2007, following the election victory of Hamas, a political party that Israel, the US, and some other countries classify as a terrorist group, Israel initiated a siege, imposing an air, land, and sea blockade on Gaza as a form of collective punishment, effectively cutting it off from the outside world. Gaza's economy has been in shambles since, as the enclave has virtually no industry and suffers from a chronic lack of food, water, fuel, and electricity due to the siege. Around half of the population is unemployed, and more than 2/3 are reliant on development aid from donors. Over the years, Palestinians in both Gaza and occupied West Bank have protested Israel's violent foundation and ongoing occupation that have left them dispossessed of their land and living under foreign military rule. Gazans' desperation and desire for self-determination has led to several major eruptions of violence between Israel and Gaza, with wars breaking out in 2008, 2012, 2014, and 2021. With no signs of de-escalation between Hamas and Israel following Hamas's Operation Al-Aqsa flood on October 7, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to forcefully avenge the attacks through intense bombardments by air and a complete siege of the territory. A complete siege not only exacerbates an already dire situation for the 2.3 million residents of the besieged enclave, half of whom are children, but it also means more fatalities and a worsening humanitarian crisis. So why are analysts calling this siege a form of collective punishment? The term collective punishment refers to sanctions, administrative measures, and various forms of harassment inflicted upon a wider group of people in response to the alleged actions of individuals within that group. By imposing a total blockade of Gaza, Israel is not just targeting and punishing Hamas, but it is also harming all 2.3 million residents trapped in the enclave. Netanyahu's call for Palestinians to leave Gaza due to Israel's bombing campaign has also fallen flat. Gaza has 7 designated crossings meant for the movement of goods and people in and out of the territory, but the enclave is closed from all sides. Residents are literally caged inside and unable to escape, as Israel has closed the Erez crossing, and the Rafah crossing controlled by Egypt has been hit by bombs.
قالوا اطلعوا من المناطق هذا عشان خاطر اسرائيل تتجلى واحنا هنا متدمرين نتدمر لا ان طليتها هين لا عندهم اكل ولا عندهم دور يعيشوا فيهم.
Does this mean Israel is breaking international laws? Well, according to Article 33 of the 4th Geneva Convention, no protected person may be punished for an offense he or she has not personally committed. Collective penalties and likewise all measures of intimidation or of terrorism are prohibited. International humanitarian law categorically bans collective punishment during armed conflicts. Its imposition amounts to a war crime.
We're just walking.
Our house is basically burning behind my back.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called Israel's decision to impose a complete siege on Palestine's Gaza deeply distressing.
This most recent violence does not come in a vacuum. The reality is that it grows out of a long-standing conflict with a 56-year-long occupation and no political end in sight.
To de-escalate tensions, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan spoke with heads of the state of both Israel and Palestine and has called for an end to the violence amid the ongoing conflict.
Her şeyin olduğu gibi savaşın da bir adabı ve ahlakı vardır. Tüm taraflar buna riayet etmekle mükelleftir. Altını çizerek hep ifade ettiğimiz gibi adil bir barışın kaybedeni olmaz.
Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, China, and many other countries have strongly reiterated their support for a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict, including the establishment of a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. As Israel's illegal occupation and settlements continue to grow, will the Israeli state ever concede to a two-state solution in order to finally establish peace in the region?